Phil with Think Make Do, and today we are going to try and install our washing machine on this renovation project. Of all the appliances that we've installed so far, including the stove, this one actually seems like the most complicated. They don't even give you a power cable. Just connect it to the panel on the back. And it's leaking onto our floor. What the heck? All right, let's clean that up. I'm back, so let's go over what we bought. First thing I needed was a dishwasher air gap. So this prevents wastewater from gurgling up back into your sink piping, or in our case, our waste disposal. So this line will actually go here, and then a 1/2 inch line will go to the inlet on our waste disposal. Right here, right? So we'll get a cable and a fitting to go from here over to here, eventually when I get this thing installed. That's what this thing's for. This one is a California code regulation thing. If you're in another state, you don't need that. I've got a 5' 3/8 to 3/8 dishwasher supply line kit, and that comes with this 90-degree fitting. That's gonna go down here, and this will connect over to this guy. And this is a shark bite 1/2 inch inlet to 3/8 OD dual, I guess, hot water line connector. So we have PEX piping for our hot and our cold down here. So the PEX piping goes onto this side, and then one line will go to the hot water line for the sink, and one line will go hot water line to this guy. And it should just screw right in. You just take this thing off. I don't think you need this copper thing, and you just plug it in. So 5 feet should take us from the center of the sink over here with enough play for when we install it. So that's what this is for. I had to get some wire connectors. I've been using a lot of these yellow ones. That is for the appliance cord. So you have an electrical box here. You have to supply your own appliance cable. And so this one comes with a ground, hot, and neutral. That will get wired into here, and I'm not sure if it's a 1 inch, 3/4. The instructions say 7/8, but they don't sell 7/8, so I bought one of each kind. And that's so that it can clamp down on this thing going through the hole here to make sure that this doesn't interact with the edge of the metal box and potentially rip open or rip the wiring, so it keeps it snug and secure. I also got the recommended hose clamps. These hose clamps are what's going to go over these connection fittings here, right? To make sure this thing doesn't move around. I don't really know what these other two are for. Maybe for this other connection that I don't plan to make yet, but whatever. That'll be for another day. And then I got a hole saw kit. I need to make a 1.5 inch hole down there for this wastewater pipe to cut over to the other side of the cabinet. The cost of a 1.5 inch is like 12, 14 bucks. This kit was 20. Kind of you do the math. Figured I might as well get it set and hold on to it for a while. So that's what this is for. So I got all my crap. The one thing I didn't mention is I need to tighten up the spacing here on the inside. So when we designed the kitchen, we didn't know what kind of dishwasher we were going to get. So we went with a little bit of oversize on the kitchen width and height dimensions, right? This thing is like 34.5. My opening is 35.5. So I actually have to raise the floor with some blocks of wood where these are going to sit by about 1 inch. And then when I install it, it'll be flush to the top of the underside of this counter where there's some plywood. And that is where these little connector plates imagine the dishwasher is in, they will sit flush against the top, and then I drill them to the top. And that way the dishwasher doesn't move. In order to do that, this thing has to be pretty close to the top here. So again, I have to build up the floor a little bit to make that happen, because the amount of adjustment here is not enough for the amount of space that I have. So you'll end up seeing me doing that as well. All right, go time. All right, I think I've got everything set up the way I want it to. We actually have a really tall height for this kitchen counter. It's like 35.5. This is designed for 34, so it's 1.5 inches that we have to come down, or 1.5 inches that we have to shim, which I use some 2x4s at the bottom to bring the height up. Now we'll have to hide that later on with a kickboard at the bottom, just because the kickboard here is not going to be good enough. We'll deal with that later. I'm going to put the insulation foam back on here and then slowly shimmy this thing back. I've already got it plugged in and it powers on. All the water connections have been tightened, so let's give this a shot. All right, here's the deal. Because we wired our electrical outlet for the dishwasher right in the center at 12 inches above the floor to code, it is interfering right here with the end of the dishwasher, which means that this thing is being pushed out 1/2 inch further than the end where the kick plate's going to be right here, and it's not exactly going to be a super flush install to the face of the cabinet. I could try to move the electrical socket, and the problem is I can't move it down, and that's because it would no longer be to code. I could try to move it to another pillar, but that would involve a lot of work that I don't want to do, and a lot of cutting back there against some soundproof wool insulation foam that I don't want to, or wool insulation that I don't want to move around. So we're just going to have to live with the unfortunate consequence of our design choice. I think maybe in the future, the electrical socket for the dishwasher, if it's going to be close to the sink, you might as well just route it over to have 2 outlets underneath the sink for access anyway, as opposed to trying to do it directly behind where the dishwasher is going to sit. All right, so when we installed this dishwasher, I mentioned we're about 3/4 inch out, so it's not flush against the cabinets. And that's because the power cable going to the wall socket in the back is causing that gap to occur. So the proper solution, which we've decided to roll with, is to remove the dishwasher, turn the appliance plug into a direct connection to that socket. So I got a wall plate and the proper connection, or the wiring relief for it. I also went and got the same wiring relief connector that we were missing when we initially plugged in the dishwasher, and I'm going to realign everything and do a reinstallation. Shouldn't take too long. And then I bought the proper connectors for our waste disposal. So I think this is a, I don't know, three quarter something or other. Whatever. It is a waste disposal flange thing here. It says 1.5 inch, but I think a lot of these connector things are different, right? Or they're misnomers. This is a 3/8 inch, but actually it fits a 7/8 inch hole. Okay, how are you supposed to know that? This is 1.5 inch. Only reason I know is because it's designed for waste disposals. This goes in here. I have 10 feet of tubing, which I only need 3 feet. This requires this, a 5/8 inner diameter hose barb that goes from here to here. This tube then goes up to our air gap, and the air gap doesn't need anything. The air gap works properly. So I have a hose clamp for that. Either way, now I have the right connections for this guy. And then I went and got the plumber's putty that's gonna go around the rim here of our waste disposal to our sink. That's gonna allow me to set this in place and tighten it, and then prep it for install with the actual waste disposal. And then connect all the lines to the dishwasher once I get this installed, and the hoses reran through this way. So let's do that work. All right, so reinstalled using the direct wiring to the socket with the correct reliefs. And now if you look, it's not protruding as much. It's not exactly flush with the cabinets. Got about, I don't know, 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more, but it's much better than it was before, so I'm happy with that. And we have the right connectors for the electrical back there, so that makes me more comfortable. All we have to do now is put these little push pins back in, and we can move on to the waste disposal and the kitchen sink. All right, so the first part to connecting the dishwasher is actually getting the waste disposal installed. Now, to install the waste disposal, you have to do the main sink drain. This is that main sink drain. Now, when you look at this assembly, it's actually this first, flange that goes down here, and then all the rest of this stuff comes up from underneath. We also need some plumber's putty. We're gonna make like a Play-Doh roll, put it on the edge of this, push it down, use this to put pressure on top, and then screw all these little bits in from underneath, and that will set the waste disposal hole for us to install this and all the rest of the connections that need to go to the dishwasher. So let's do that. We've got all of our dishwasher connections made and our waste disposal installed. So I have this PEX pipe fitting. Now what's supposed to happen is I have another one. I cut the hot line a little bit long, the cold line a little bit short, and that way this wire or this cable doesn't get in the way of each other. But this is a dual hot. I think 3/8 lines, braided cord coming off of it. One going to the hot, to the sink, or to the faucet, which we're about to install, and this one going to the dishwasher. Now, if you look up here, I've got our air gap installed. Got an inlet pipe from the dishwasher, and then one coming down back to the waste disposal as spec'd. I just need to now pressure this thing up a little bit more. I might grab a hammer for that to do the rotation. And now we can get to installing our fabulously average kitchen faucet. It's actually going to be shown without the deck plate. That's how we're going to do it. Goes here. Should look pretty. We have some backsplash tile that's going to go back here, but I think I can install the faucet. It won't interfere too much with that insulation. It won't get messed up. So I'm going to do that now. Hopefully that'll be it for the day. All right, well that is the kitchen sink. Pretty much done. It works, came with a weight. The only thing I don't like about this is that to turn to hot, it goes past center, right? And when you turn it off, that comes pretty dang close to our wall, which means when we put our subway tile in, yes, it will interfere if you go from hot and close it, which means that it'll probably just get a little dirty back here because there'll be constant touching, and maybe the subway tile that we put back there will get scratched over time. So not ideal. It'd be nice if this was reversible. I could put it on that side, although I've never seen a left-hand kitchen sink before, but whatever. It's in, it's secure, works as intended. The one thing I may change later, you'll see I used a compression fitting here on the cold line, and that's because we have a compression fitting. But for the double hot line, I used a PEX shark bite style. Now the shark bite doesn't really have hold on the rotation of the wiring, so I can't really hold it in one spot. I also, when I cut the hot line longer than the cold line, I should have done it the other way around, I think, or maybe staggered them even more, because I can't actually get this lifted up like that because I don't want this sitting on top of the pipe. So this should have came out a little bit further, or you know, eventually I could cut it even more when I switch back over to a new compression fitting, but I'm not gonna worry about that. Everything else in here is done. The last thing I need that I have to go run to the store and get, which I guess I won't bother showing you guys, is this last pipe clamp that has to go on this expansion tube or extension tube here, the 5/8 inner diameter tubing right here. This is the last piece left, and then the kitchen will be done. So moving on to the next.